Imagine you wake up tomorrow, but it is not tomorrow. It is the year 100 AD. You are in Rome. 1 million people are waking up around you. What happens next will completely change how you see human civilization. Forever. 2,000 years ago, Rome, home to 1 million souls, was the beating heart of an empire stretching from Africa to Britain. Before the city fully woke, the cobblestones glistened in pale morning light. Even the eternal city paused to breathe. The Colosseum held 50,000 spectators, not merely an arena, but a statement of Roman power, ambition, and genius. The Roman Forum was the civic heart of the empire. Here, laws were made, fortunes won, and the business of civilization conducted daily. By the second hour, bakers fired ovens and merchants unlocked shutters. A new day had begun in the ancient world's greatest metropolis. Most Romans lived in cramped multi-story insulae. In a world without electric light, the rhythms of life were dictated entirely by the sun. Romans used water, olive oil, and a scraping tool called a strigil to clean their skin each morning. Soap, as we know it, was rare. For wealthy women, the morning toilet could take hours. Elaborate hairstyles involving pins, curling irons, and even wigs announced status instantly. The toga was a declaration of citizenship. Its color communicated rank. A purple stripe meant senatorial class. Full purple meant only one thing: emperor. Breakfast was modest, coarse bread dipped in olive oil, perhaps some olives or dried fruit. Romans did not linger over morning meals. Family was the cornerstone of Roman society. The paterfamilias held absolute legal authority over every member of his household, including adult children. Boys as young as 7 walked through city streets to private schools, carrying wax tablets and styluses, the notebooks and pens of the ancient world. Slaves performed virtually every domestic task. Many were educated professionals, captured in Rome's endless wars. Their freedom was not their own. As morning matured, merchants headed to their shops, and lawyers walked toward the Forum. Most Roman business concluded well before noon. Rome's streets were extraordinarily narrow and relentlessly loud. Vendors calling, cartwheels on stone, a dozen languages spoken by people from across the empire. 11 aqueducts fed over 1,000 public fountains across the city. For Romans with no running water at home, these fountains were lifelines. By the third hour, Rome's commercial life was in full swing. The tabernae sold everything: food, wine, pottery, spices, cloth, from a trade network stretching to India. At the Macellum each morning, the city fed itself. Fish from Ostia, grain from Egypt, garum fish sauce, in quantities that staggered the imagination. Fish was central to the Roman diet. Sea bream, mackerel, and eel were common. The prized red mullet could fetch extraordinary sums among the elite. Rome ran on bread. Over 300 bakeries produced round, score-marked loaves, identical in shape to bread found perfectly preserved in the ruins of Pompeii. Olive oil was Rome's petroleum, used to cook, light lamps, clean skin, and lubricate machinery. A Roman household might consume hundreds of liters every year. Black pepper from India was worth its weight in silver. When the Visigoths sacked Rome in 410 AD, Their ransom demands included 3,000 pounds of pepper. The empire's standardized silver denarius was recognized from Hadrian's Wall to the Persian frontier. Money changers functioned effectively as the ancient world's first bankers. Tyrian purple, extracted from tens of thousands of sea snails, was so expensive it was reserved for emperors. Color announced status as clearly as a uniform. Roman commerce was regulated with surprising modernity. Officials called aediles inspected markets regularly. Cheating on weights was a serious criminal offense. Most Romans had no home kitchen. They relied on thermopolia, Rome's fast food counters, for hot bean stew, lentils, roasted meats, and warmed wine. Hundreds of ships arrived daily at Ostia. River barges carried cargo up the Tiber to the great Horea warehouses lining Rome's riverbank. By midday, Rome's markets grew quiet. The Romans divided their day strictly: mornings for work and commerce, afternoons for leisure, bathing, and rest. Wine was the universal beverage of Rome, consumed by senators and slaves alike. The poorest drank posca, sour wine vinegar mixed with water, even on the march. The Senate of 600 men retained the symbolic heart of Roman governance, carefully maintaining the fiction, cultivated by the emperors, that Rome was still a republic. The Roman legionary served 25 years, trained equally in combat, engineering, and logistics. He was the most professional soldier the ancient world had ever produced. Iron was the foundation of Roman civilization, the metal of swords, tools, plows, and bridges. The city's blacksmiths were a constant source of noise, smoke, and neighbor complaints. Perhaps 20% of Romans could read and write. Scribes called library tracked every contract, census, and court case in vast papyrus archives. Roman medicine blended genuine scientific insight with superstition. Physicians drew on Hippocrates and Galen, yet prescribed magical charms alongside complex surgeries with equal confidence. Roman education was entirely private. Children learned reading, arithmetic, and later rhetoric and philosophy. What the Romans called the mark of a vir bonus, a good man. Mosaic artists assembled floors from thousands of tiny cut stones and glass tiles. Roman mosaics have survived 2,000 years underground. Evidence of craftsmanship the modern world barely matches by hand. Roman pottery was Rome's plastic. Cheap, versatile, produced in standardized forms, and shipped efficiently across thousands of miles to every corner of the empire. Roman jurisprudence produced a legal framework so sophisticated it forms the foundation of nearly every legal system in the Western world today. Textile production was the primary occupation of Roman women across all social classes. The quality of cloth a family wore was a direct measure of its respectability. Chariot racing was Rome's Formula One, complete with team colors, celebrity drivers, and the passionate loyalty of millions of fans. Romans paid taxes on land, inheritance, slave sales, port goods, and their own heads. Tax collectors, the publicani, were among the most despised figures in the ancient world. The Colosseum hosted events for over 4 centuries. On major festival days, admission was free. The games a social institution, a political tool, and a religious ritual all in one. Gladiators were legally among the lowest of Romans, yet they were celebrated like gods, their names scratched in graffiti by admiring fans across the city. The Circus Maximus held 250,000 spectators, the largest sports venue ever built. Chariot races were short, brutal, and frequently fatal. The baths of Caracalla could accommodate 1,600 bathers at once. For Romans, the daily bath was the gym, the coffee shop, and the library simultaneously. Business deals were struck in steam rooms. Philosophers debated in colonnaded gardens. The baths had libraries, snack bars, and exercise courts. Civic life made physical. Roman comedy explored scheming slaves, confused identities, and romantic misadventure. The plays of Plautus would not feel out of place in a modern sitcom. Gambling was Rome's great vice. Technically illegal, except during Saturnalia, yet so universally ignored that even emperors gambled openly. Dice have been found in their hundreds across Roman sites. For the elite, the afternoon odium, cultivated idleness, was the highest expression of civilized life. Reading, philosophical conversation, and walking in a garden, music wove through every aspect of Roman life. Yet remarkably, not a single note has survived. Its instruments are known, its role is known, but its sound is lost forever. Roman children played with dolls, spinning tops, hoops and knuckle bones, the ankle bones of sheep. A game so popular, it appears in countless Roman paintings and sculptures. Official announcements were proclaimed by a town crier called a preco at temple steps or crossroads. For a largely pre-literate population, the spoken word was everything. Rome was a city of books. The public libraries held tens of thousands of scrolls. Virgil, Ovid, Cicero, their words copied for 2,000 years still resonate today. The Romans were profoundly, practically religious. The Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods, required constant maintenance through ritual, sacrifice, and daily prayer. Animal sacrifice was the central act of Roman worship. To perform the ritual incorrectly was to risk divine displeasure and potentially catastrophe for the entire city. 6 Vestal virgins maintained the sacred flame for 30 years. To harm a Vestal was to harm Rome itself. In return, they held privileges no other Roman woman could claim. Every Roman household maintained a lararium, a small shrine to household gods. Each morning, a brief offering of salt, cake, and wine kept the gods reliably on side. The Roman religious calendar held over 40 official festival days per year. Processions, sacrifices, chariot races, and feasting. The gods, Romans believed, enjoyed a good party as much as anyone. Before any major decision, the Romans consulted omens. Haruspices read animal livers. Augurs observed birds. To a Roman, the universe was constantly communicating. One simply had to listen. Roman temples were the houses of gods, not congregation spaces. Only priests entered the inner sanctuary, where the cult statue, of ivory and gold, literally dwelt. Saturnalia, Rome's great midwinter festival, inverted the social order for 7 days. Slaves were served by masters. Gambling was permitted. The entire city gave itself over to feasting and joy. The augur read divine will through the observation of birds. Julius Caesar famously ignored unfavorable omens on the Ides of March. The consequences were instructive. Votive offerings accumulated at temple bases. Clay figurines, coins, garlands, inscribed tablets. The intimacy of these objects, 2,000 years later, is almost unbearable. As temples closed at dusk, the flame of devotion continued in every household lararium through the night. In Rome, the gods were never far from the hearth. The wealthy Roman domus was designed around a sky-open atrium with a central pool. To cross its threshold was to enter a world of deliberate beauty. Roman mothers wielded enormous informal influence, educating children, managing household economies, yet all formal legal power rested with the paterfamilias. The convivium, the dinner party daca, was Rome's central social institution. Multiple courses, fine wine, music, and poetry could last for hours. A host's prestige depended on all three. Roman cookbooks survive, revealing recipes of extraordinary complexity, from simple bread and bean stew for the poor to roasted peacock and flamingo for the obscenely wealthy. Roman boys of the upper classes studied Homer, Virgil, and Cicero with the same intensity modern students bring to canonical texts. Education was the foundation of Roman identity. A wealthy household might contain dozens of slaves, each with a specific role: managing accounts, dressing hair, accompanying children to school, memorizing the faces of important visitors. In theory, Roman law gave the paterfamilias power of life and death over his household. In practice, the Roman grandfather was often a figure of warmth, indulgence, and storytelling. A Roman wedding began with the bride donning her white tunic and saffron veil. The ceremony was brief, the celebrations could last for days. Marriage was legal arrangement and genuine bond alike. Romans were voracious readers. A gentleman was expected not merely to read widely, but to have committed large portions of literature to memory, quoted as readily as Shakespeare in any drawing room. Romans kept pets with great affection: dogs, cats, and talking parrots. The grief at a pet's death was real enough to inspire poetry. Catullus wrote movingly of his girlfriend Sparrow. Even in the grandest domus, bedrooms were typically small. Romans did not prize privacy, yet every room was decorated with frescoes, fine textiles, and bronze lamps. Beauty in every corner. By late afternoon, the neighborhood smelled of garlic, fish sauce, and wood smoke. In a city of 1 million strangers, the local vicus was where community actually happened. As the sun set, the city of marble and noise gave way to a city of shadow and flame. A different class of Roman claimed the streets. Rome had no public lighting beyond torches at major intersections. A wealthy Roman walked preceded by slaves bearing lanterns. The poor navigated by moonlight or stayed indoors. Wheeled vehicles were banned during daylight hours. At night, hundreds of carts delivered wine, grain, and marble. Juvenal complained bitterly that the noise made sleep impossible. Wine flowed, always mixed with water, as Romans considered drinking it neat a sign of barbarism. Guests argued about law, literature, and the infinite complexity of Roman life. The vigils served as Rome's fire brigade and night watchmen. The Great Fire of 64 AD burned for 9 days and destroyed 2/3 of the city. The vigils were Rome's thin line. The ancient night sky blazed with a clarity impossible in any modern city. The same constellations that watched over Caesar watch over us still, unchanged across 2,000 years. In the quiet gardens of the elite, the heat had lifted and the city noise had faded. A Roman philosopher with wine and stars overhead inhabited a world of genuine peace. For the million Romans who were not wealthy, the night held little romance. Cold in winter, suffocating in summer, loud with cart noise. And yet they lived with extraordinary richness. The empire's governance required enormous volumes of written correspondence, carried by imperial couriers across 50,000 miles of roads. Rome's administrators worked long into the night. As the deepest hours settled over Rome, the city finally rested. 1 million souls sleeping the sleep of people who had lived, as Romans did every single day, with magnificent intensity. The Roman legion was the most effective military organization the ancient world produced. Builders as much as fighters, leaving roads and aqueducts as permanent monuments to Roman permanence. Rome built over 80,000 kilometers of roads. Many still exist as the foundations of modern European highways, constructed without mortar and to a single precise standard. 11 aqueducts delivered over 1 million cubic meters of fresh water to Rome every day. Built without pumps, using only gravity, carrying water up to 100 kilometers. Some still flow today. A triumphant general rode through Rome in a golden chariot, preceded by his captives. A slave held a golden crown above his head, whispering repeatedly, "Remember that you are mortal." The arch was Rome's great structural gift to the world. From it flowed the vault, the dome, the basilica, and ultimately the cathedral. Every great arched building traces its lineage to Rome. Latin refused to die. It became Italian, Spanish, French, and Romanian. It survived in the church for 2 millennia. Approximately 60% of English vocabulary derives, directly or indirectly, from Latin. Roman mosaics and frescoes recorded real faces, real markets, real battles. Rome speaking directly to us across 2,000 years, insisting that it was real, that these were actual human lives. At its height, Rome held perhaps 1 million people when most cities numbered in the tens of thousands. The first truly global city, where the whole world came and was changed. The flame of Vesta burned for over 1,000 years before being extinguished in 394 AD. But Rome's laws, its language, its architecture, its literature, these could not so easily be put out. Rome did not fall in a day. The Western Empire faded across centuries. But the idea of Rome, of universal civilization, law, and beauty, never truly died. Wherever civilization reaches, Rome was there first.